we wanted to come on this morning to just drop some nuggets on, how to deal with an emotionally unavailable person, how to know that you're dealing with an emotionally unavailable person. What is an emotionally unavailable person? Because the truth of the matter is, some of y'all might be blaming this unemotional stuff on other folks.
It just might be you.
That part.
That part. So listen, it's a great day to be alive. Let's go ahead and have a conversation. Just wanted to share just a couple of nuggets, as she's already said, that really helps us to go into the new year. Not dealing with the same issues, not dealing with the same excuses, if you will. And what I mean by that, quite naturally, is sometimes we're blaming other people when the truth is it just may be us. It just may be us. Because some of us have had some traumatic experiences in past relationships, traumatic experiences with coming up as a child where you didn't feel like you were listened to, didn't feel like they had your best interests at heart. And some of those things can be sort of some signs that you have some trauma that you have left unchecked, and that may need to be placed in order, so you can stop blaming other people for having an emotionally unavailable person, when the truth of the matter is you just might be that person yourself. So let's get this conversation started. We're not going to be on here long at all, not today. So let's have a conversation. Tell them what emotionally unavailable is.
Okay, so here's the deal. An emotionally unavailable person is a person who does not have the capacity or is unwilling to have conversations or engage with you at a deeper level. Somebody who is not able to express their feelings in such a way that takes you from surface conversation to deep, meaningful conversation. That's an emotionally unavailable person. So things that could make us unemotionally available could be trauma. Okay, growing up in dysfunction.
Yes.
Right? Growing up, having some traumatic event that happened in your life that causes you to shut down and not be able to share your feelings or your emotions with other people. So, dysfunction, trauma. Truth of the matter is, being in a previous relationship that you just got burned out on. That could cause you not to be an emotionally available person. So now you're unavailable to everybody else.
Yeah, and I also want to just stress real quickly that I share this quite a bit with especially the men, and I share it with women to understand men better, because again, when we were young kids, and I talk about this all the time, when we were boys, if you will, we fall off the bike, bust our head open to the white meat, scrape our knees, or whatever the case may be. And you got someone telling us, big boys don't cry. And so they're telling us, suck it up. Here you are, a young boy. You falling off your bike. I mean, you're bleeding like crazy. I mean, they're saying,
you're hurting.
And you're hurting. And they're telling you, big boys don't cry. Suck it up. So here's the thing that I tell people all the time. I honestly believe with everything in me that had a major impact on us sharing our emotions. As men, they taught us as young boys
to cut it off.
Cut off your emotions. Don't express how you feel. And so we may not think that played a part in us being adults now trying to express our feelings. But I honestly believe that played a major role in us not expressing what we really feel, because you told me when I was a boy, don't cry. So you got a grown man at a funeral who's burying his son, burying his mom, and they're sitting there with sunglasses on, trying not to cry because all they keep hearing in their ears is big boys don't cry. Now I'm a grown man. They ain't supposed to see me cry. And I think that's why a lot of men sometimes don't express themselves as they ought to. And they also have to have a very, very safe space, because if they don't have a safe space in a relationship, you can forget about them talking about their feelings. So talk about that. Go ahead.
And that's a very good point, because men learn early on as boys not to share. So now we have boys who grow up to be men who have the emotional IQ of a 5 or 6 or 7 or a 10-year-old. And now as adults, we want them to express themselves as an adult. But wait a minute. They stopped expressing themselves as boys. So where did they learn how to navigate these emotions and feelings that we now want them to display, that we now want them to share as men? They were never given a chance because as boys, they were taught you don't share, you shut it down, because strong men don't show their emotions. So now, like Lauren says, we're at funerals or we're in situations where we want men to open up and engage with us, and they don't have the capacity to do it because they were never given the space to be, check this out, vulnerable enough to share those emotions.
Right.
So part of a man being able to share his emotions is being in a safe environment that allows him permission. Because remember, permission was taken away from him as a boy, but allows him permission to be vulnerable. And ladies, that's your job. Because here's the thing, no man wants to be vulnerable and then turn around and have it thrown back in his face.
Exactly.
That's the quickest way to shut a man down. And so now we're looking at him going, well, he don't say nothing. Well, sis, what was the environment that you created for him to share his emotions? So now if he shared his emotions, you shut him down and threw him back up in his face. The vulnerability is gone, and now he's emotionally unavailable again. And now you're trying to figure out what's wrong with him. Is it really him?
And so I hear a lot of times, especially with ladies, they're always saying things like, well, he doesn't have a problem talking to the guys. Every time the guy calls, I mean, they just talking. Well, he feels safer talking to a man than he does talking to you because he doesn't feel that safety that he needs to talk about those things around you, because he's, number one, trying to figure out, if I share what I really feel, is that going to come back to haunt me? If I share what I really feel, is that going to be something that's thrown back up in my face? And so it takes a lot for a man to get to a place where he feels vulnerable, where he feels safe enough, to be able to share what his deepest feelings are. And that's why a lot of times you ask a man, what's wrong? Nothing? No, it's not that nothing's wrong. It's just that I'm trying to feel my way through to see if I'm safe enough to share what I really feel, or if what I say is going to hurt your feelings enough, not enough, but hurt your feelings to the point where now I can't continue to share what I am sensing or what I'm feeling, if that makes sense. And so I need you to understand that sometimes as men, we want to talk. I mean, and I'm saying we want to talk now. Right. But again, you've got to give us that space to really have that conversation with you.
Yes, I say this often in our private practice. We'll have people call us and go, do you offer anger management classes? And I go, yeah, we do offer anger management classes. And I go, well, who told you that you needed an anger management class? And the person will say, well, the court told me, or I know I need it because X, Y, Z. And they'll share, and I'll go, really 85 to 90% of the time, you don't have anger management issues. You have language issues, because you don't know how to take those emotions from underneath the surface and bring them to the top with appropriate language that allows, number one, you to release what you're feeling and acknowledge what you're feeling, but number two, for the receiver to take that information and be able to engage back with you at the level that you need. So it's not that you have anger issues, because anger has only one job and one job only, and that's to protect a person. So when anger shows up, anger is protecting that person from the emotions that are underneath the surface. So when we talk about emotionally unavailable people, sometimes that emotionally unavailable person demonstrates one emotion, which is anger, and that anger hijacks all of those other emotions underneath the surface that they lack the language to be able to articulate.
Girl, you saying a mouthful. And so on a serious note, so here are some signs. We're just going to run through this real quickly. Just a few signs that may sort of help you to feel whether or not you're dealing with someone who's emotionally unavailable. And we're going to start with you. And because sometimes even with women as well as with men.
That's true.
I'll say it like this. when a person seems distant or disengaged when it comes to talking about their feelings or talking about those things, that may be a sign that a person is emotionally unavailable when they shy away from conversations that really should be engaging, conversations that really should be talked about. So when a person sometimes shuts down, it's not necessarily, I'll say it like this, it's not that they are emotionally unavailable. Sometimes they're just trying to sift through whether or not I can have this conversation on this level, if that makes sense.
Yep. So they're not necessarily emotionally unavailable. They're testing the waters to see if this person is emotionally safe enough for me to share.
Important conversations, right? So, for instance, when especially a woman, when she wants to talk about what she wants to talk about, she wants to talk about it then. But again, as a man, we can sometimes, say, hey, let's do this at another time. But a woman's like, no, we're going to talk now. A lot of times it might simply be because we may not say the right things and we may hurt your feelings to the point where now you're shutting down and none of us are having conversations, which is damaging as a whole to the relationship.
Did y'all get that? Because sometimes as women, we are impatient when it comes to our emotions. Here's why. Because we're used to sharing our emotions. It's nothing for us to share our emotions. But we have to always remember this. It's nothing for us to share our emotions. We can share them very easily. Here's the problem. What about the person that's receiving the emotions that we're trying to give out? They may not have the capacity in that moment to receive what we're trying to express. And so we have to, ladies, you got to be able to read the room. You got to be able to read the room. If your man has had a hard day at work or your man is experiencing some stress in some kind of way, then trying to have an emotionally charged conversation, that ain't the time. And I understand. I hear y'all because I'm the same way. I'm a woman too. When I got it on my chest, I got it on my chest. And so you have to be able to read the room to the point to where you can say to your significant other, listen, I got some stuff I need to discuss with you. I know you're stressed right now. But before we go to bed tonight, or before we do anything else tonight, I need to be able to express this to you. And so now we create an environment that's not surprising to the man. And see, that's the other thing men don't like. Men don't like to be surprised when it comes to these emotional conversations. They can't stand that, ladies. Did y'all hear me? They can't stand that. And that causes them to be emotionally unavailable too. Because if you coming at them emotionally charged at any time of the day, a man is not prepared for that.
You talking good.
I'm just saying, men are not prepared for that. You live with your emotions. You've had the ability to learn how to manage appreciate your emotions, manage your emotions, articulate your emotions since you were a little girl. Ooh. That's all of our fairy tales. That's all of our stories. We've learned to do that, ladies, as little girls. Men stopped learning how to do that as little boys. So now you're going to try to have an emotionally charged, and not necessarily in a bad way, but now you're going to try to have an emotionally charged conversation at the drop of a dime with a man? Come on now. That makes him emotionally unavailable.
And especially trying to have a conversation when he's watching his sports or whatever it is that he loves watching or doing.
The news.
That's not a good time at all. Going to another reason.
All right, so what's the second reason, honey? What you got?
Something else.
So here's the thing. Here's what I want us to remember when it comes to dealing with emotionally unavailable people. If a person has grown up in dysfunction, okay? If a person has grown up in dysfunction.
And all of us have.
That's the truth. If you born in America, raised in America, I don't care if you grew up in a 2-parent home or a 1-parent home, you grew up in dysfunction. Here's the thing. What did you learn from those who were your parents, guardians, or caregivers about managing emotions?
About managing emotions.
Yep. So if the people who raised you, okay, were not good managers of their own emotions, then the likelihood of them teaching you how to manage your emotions are slim to none. And so now here you are, an adult, making excuses, saying something like this. Well, that's just the way I am. Wait, what? No, that's not just the way you are. That's the way that you choose to continue to be, because you're choosing not to learn how to manage a very important part of you. So here's how I look at that. If you were walking around with chest pains, you wouldn't walk around with chest pains. You go to the emergency room to see why you're having chest pains, because we all know that a sign of a heart attack is a chest pain, correct?
Correct.
So you're just not going to walk around the house and go, oh, that's just the way I am. I got chest pains. No, you're going to go and do something about it. The same is true when it comes to your emotions. When you're going from relationship to relationship, ain't no good men out there. I can't find anybody. Or men, there are no good women out there. I can't find anybody. I'm not saying the problem is you 100%. I'm saying for you to look inward, because here's what I always tell my clients. Our external relationships are built on our internal relationship with ourselves.
No question.
So the better we are at managing ourselves, the better we are at staying in touch with our own internal emotions and feelings, the better we are at managing the relationships that are external. So you show me a person that goes from relationship to relationship to relationship to relationship. Ooh. I'm not going to necessarily say that the problem is everybody else. I'm going to start with what's the common denominator here, and not to be negative about it, but I'm going to simply say, what is it internal? Tell me about your relationship with yourself. How do you take care of yourself? How do you take care of your finances? How do you self-care? What does your house look like? How does your job feel? All of those things, because that's the person that you are. And based on all of that information, I can help a person now determine that, listen, I've been from relationship to relationship to relationship looking for somebody to feel something that I should be able to feel within myself on my own.
And that's the thing, because most times what ends up happening, we're trying to figure out why we keep attracting the same type of people, the same type of emotionally unavailable people, the same type of people who keep treating you any and every way. Mm-hmm. And it may be because you are doing that to yourself because you haven't taken time to get into the self-love, haven't taken the time to really get to know yourself, haven't taken the time to really get to a place where you feel worthy of who you have been called and assigned to be. And so that's one of the things that we got to get to, is really understanding who we are, understanding our values, so that we don't continue to pick people that are just like us internally. Yeah. Because many times we have the tendency to look outwardly at the other person, when the truth of the matter, we may need to be doing a dissection, or dissect rather, our own internal issues. Yep, because we can't continue to use that same excuse, well, that's just the way that I am. No, we can say that, honestly, if you were born, I've had some clients say, well, I was raised by my grandmother. Okay, that's a generational difference. And just because you were raised by your grandmother doesn't mean that you still have to walk in her footsteps in your adult life based on her ability or her lack of capacity to be able to share her emotions, because that was a generational thing. Right. She wasn't allowed to do that. You have permission to do that. So now you have to figure out how you just show up differently. So we talked about not being able to express yourself. We talked about not being vulnerable enough, because there's vulnerability in communication. Right. There's vulnerability in commitment. So when we talk about not being able to engage emotionally with somebody else, what holds you captive is your inability to be vulnerable in commitment and communication. Yeah, and that's one of the big things now, as far as we're concerned, is commitment, as you said, and communication. Those two things. Well, let's just deal with communication, because communication is a major gap in a lot of relationships, because sometimes we don't always listen to hear. Listen. And listening is more important than talking. Listening is far more important. As I just interrupted you, but go ahead, honey. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. No, I just wanted to say that. I just wanted to say that part. Listening is so much more important. What you have to say is important. We're not trying to say that at all. But being able to listen, and I'm not just saying listening to the words that a person speaks. I'm saying being able to listen with the third ear. Because there's a lot of times that when a person is trying to communicate, they lack the words sometimes to say what they want, especially a person who's not been given permission to express their feelings. So ladies, this is what I'm talking about when it comes to men. Sometimes what they're not saying is just as important as what they are saying. For sure. And communication, I promise you, if you don't have communication, I promise you, you really don't have anything. Said the communicator. Said the communicator. That's me. Let's talk. But on a serious note, because communication is so critical in a relationship, you don't even think about commitment if you don't have communication.
Right.
That's not even logical. And so you have so many people who are trying to find commitment with somebody that can't communicate.
Right.
That's going to be short-lived. You've got to do all the talking. And here's the thing. And let me just talk about this for a second, because there are a lot of people, especially with men, and I'm saying this for the women. Women think that they can really correct and change a man to the point where he knows how to communicate.
No.
That's not always going to be the case. I'm not saying it can't happen, but it's going to be extremely difficult for you to try to make a man a communicator when, as a grown man, he's never learned how to communicate. It's not something that you just magically just wave a wand. Oh, he knows how to communicate now. You can work yourself till you're blue in the face, how they say it, and truthfully, you won't get much yardage out of that, because it has to be something that a man initiates on his own to say, man, I've got to become a better communicator. So here he has this great woman, if you will, and he's trying to do his best to show that he wants to communicate better. But he's like, what do? I don't know how to start, because all my life I have not been given the safety or the instructions even to learn how to communicate.
Right. And that's what we were talking about earlier, is ladies, you got to create this environment that allows him, and not only create the environment that allows him to speak, but appreciate what he says. Lawrence will tell you, when guys come to counseling, listen, I celebrate them, because I understand how hard it is for a man to be vulnerable enough to come to counseling, not only to talk to him, because sometimes dudes just need another dude to talk to, but to sit down and share what he's feeling on the inside to me. So I'll share this and we'll be done. When we're talking about emotionally unavailable people, I had the pleasure of working in a workshop one time where I was sharing some information about men and communication, and it was particularly our young boys in the school system. And I had a father come up and share with me that he was not allowed to share his emotions growing up as a young man. And so he remembers very vividly an incident where he was riding a skateboard and he fell off of it and he scraped his whole arm. Like, you could still see the scar on his arm from where he scraped his whole arm. And so his dad, after he fell off the skateboard, he ran in, and his mom was in there and she was trying to take care of it and everything. And dad comes in and dad says some choice words to him and says, you don't need no bandages, go on in your room and da-da-da-da. Sends him to his room. He could hear his father scolding his mother and allowing him to cry after scraping his entire arm when he fell off the skateboard. He heard that. So trauma number one, fell off the skateboard and scraped his entire arm to the point where now he's an adult and I can see the scar. That's the point number one. Point number two, he goes to his room. He's sent to his room. He can hear his father scolding his mother for allowing him to cry and feel the pain. Mind you, feel the pain and express the pain of falling off his skateboard. Point number three, mom and dad get into an argument. She says, he's just a boy, he's hurting, I need to da-da-da. That whole thing that a mom should do with a little boy.
Right.
Parents get into it. Dad, this is all in one night. Dad starts drinking, and what happens? He gets more aggressive with the drinking. To the point to where the entire night, mom and dad are going at it. Off of one incident, the boy falling off the skateboard. Can you imagine the amount of trauma that he experienced that night from just simply being able to express his emotions? So now let's fast forward.
Fast forward.
He's a father, right? His son now is trying to learn how to express to his dad what he feels. Dad recognized, after I shared what I shared in my workshop, that he took away his son's voice at the age of 10, just like his father took away his voice at the age of 10. When I tell you this man sobbed in front of me, it was just me, him, and another guy at the end of the workshop. This father sobbed in front of me because he recognized that he shut his son down, made him emotionally unavailable at 10, just like his own father had made him emotionally unavailable at 10. It can sometimes be generational.
Right. And I would close with saying this because I hear this a lot of times, even with parents. You have children that ask a lot of questions. And parents say, stop asking me all those questions. And again, you don't realize how even with that, you can be shutting down their ability to want to have effective, wholesome conversations.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that you cannot do as a parent is continue to shut your child down when they want to talk. Because as parents, we have to learn how to listen, Linda. Listen to them because they have something to say, number one, and listen to them because, number two, that may have a major effect on how they communicate when they get in relationship later on.
Yep, and that's how children learn. As a 25-year educator, that questions...
You've been educating 25 years?
Educator 25 years.
You don't even look like you're 25.
I know, right? I mean,
You say
so that's how children learn. Children learn by asking questions. And so when we shut down their ability to learn, we shut down their ability to communicate.
That's it. So listen, emotionally unavailable might be somebody who doesn't even want to discuss future with you.
Yes.
Emotionally unavailable.
Come on. If I can't talk to you about what our relationship looks like and the purpose of our relationship, where we're trying to go, and even your own future. If I were to ask you questions about your own future and you can't articulate that information to me, you might just be an emotionally unavailable person.
Wow. Good people, we just want to have a little short conversation today. It's right at 30 minutes. I didn't want to be this long.
Wow.
And so we just want to have a conversation with you. We may come on again one day this week, have another conversation about something else. Listen, if y'all want us to talk about something, put it in the chat. How about a dating workshop for high-valued women and high-valued men? Hey, we can make it happen now.
Yes.
We can make that happen for sure. Not a problem at all. We can have a workshop on
Come
that
on now.
all day. Talk about it because, again, that's what has to happen. You know.
Yep. You got to know your value and know your worth.
That's it.
That part.
We'll make it happen. Gervin? Yes, sir. We'll make it happen. Good people, y'all have a blessed rest of the day. Appreciate y'all. I've got to get off of here because got some things to do.
Yep.
Y'all be blessed. Have a great day.